everyone's attention. We'd just like to thank everyone for being here today, coming out and celebrating Dad, Al, Beeb, and a great guy. We really do. I don't have a lot to say. Do you want me to do yours? We'd like to invite you forward to come and say remarks about Dad, maybe stories, remembering about to hear it. We are recording, so we can on YouTube. I'm going to start things and read something that my sister Betsy wrote up. Yes, please sit down. Thank you. Grab some cookies. Go ahead and get started. I'll try and talk loud enough. I apologize. We don't have a microphone. I forgot to request that when I was talking to the church yesterday. So when you do come up, try and talk loudly enough. I do have a microphone, so like I said, it will be recorded so we can post it out and see it on the internet. What I'm going to read is something that my sister, the oldest sibling, wrote up, and she wouldn't be able to read it, so I'm going to read it for her. And again, we invite anyone to come up and speak. Over the years, I have written poems and put together a book of stories that encapsulate the life of the A.D. Haverty family. I would like to share a few things about our dad, who was an amazing husband and father that you might not know. Dad was a sentimental man, and this is something I found out not very many years ago. Dad put a baby picture of me, Betsy, his firstborn, in his wallet and left it there for nearly 56 years. It's still there. Even after 4 more children and 6 grandchildren, my picture was the only one in there. Dad always had a pair of fingernail clippers in his pocket and would hand them to me when I asked to use them. When I was working at the Kansas Insurance Department after college, I asked an older gentleman, co-worker, if I could borrow his clippers. He looked at me as though I was crazy and told me I did not have any. I was a little taken aback and went and bought a pair of my own. And going through Dad's stuff at home, we found over 24 fingernail clippers. Dad was a true gentleman. I never saw him go through a door before Mom or any of us girls or other women, even when his arms were full. When Dad liked a product, whether it be food, clothing, restaurant, etc., he stuck with it. I do not recall Dad wearing any aftershave or cologne other than Old Spice, regular scent. Whenever I smell it, I have and will always think of Dad. Last summer, a group of us took Mom and Dad to the Salute wine tasting. Dad really enjoyed this one wine and would keep returning to the vendor for another taste. John said Dad made the comment that they were getting chintzy on the amount of wine that was being put in his glass each time he went back. John told him that he needs to move around the room and try other wines, to which Dad replied, "But I like that one." We would have pizza delivered from the same place every Sunday. The only time we would change places was due to the order being wrong. Over the years, we have tried all the pizza places in Lawrence. Dad's brother, Charles, would always kid him for not crossing the county line. Dad said with his being in the U.S. Navy, he had seen plenty and the best place to be was right here in Douglas County, Kansas. Dad did occasionally leave Lawrence, but not for very long. He always enjoyed his home and life here. The only thing Dad wrote was his name. He printed everything else. Back when Dad golfed a lot, he and his group of friends would take week-long golf trips to Florida in the winter. Invariably, that would be the week of the worst snowstorm of the season. So Jenny would bundle up in Dad's Sub-Zero suit and go plow the driveway. When Dad was home, after a snowstorm, you could see him atop his red tractor, which you've seen up here a few times, plowing his driveway and sidewalks, as well as those of his neighbors, up and down the street. Dad hated winter because it was just too cold. I know he will be happily watching down from heaven, knowing that he will never have to deal with the cold again. Dad was a wonderful father who enjoyed life and together with Mom helped raise 5 children to adulthood. He was an inspiration to everyone he met. Dad usually had a smile on his face and was always looking for ways to make things easier. Dad was always there for us when we needed help with something and taught us the true meaning of family. There is nothing like family. We miss you already, Dad. You are in our hearts and our souls, and will never be forgotten. Love, Betsy, Haverty Hote, 1-8-15. So with that, woo! I invite you to come up if you have anything you'd like to share. We'd invite you to come up. Pastor, if you have anything else you'd like to share. Or...
I'd just like to start some thoughts.
I'm shaking. We were hoping you were going to come up and talk. If you wouldn't mind holding this, it's the microphone for the screen that will follow you around. So,
I'm Matt. I'm Charles. I'm sorry?
You can hold
Is this
it down like this.
hold like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this. I'm not experienced at this, and I have no idea what I'm going to say. But I'm Matt Haverty. I'm Charles' oldest son. Charles is Beebe's older brother. And a couple things come to mind. I actually didn't hear all of what you said because I was too busy eating chocolate chip cookies, so you might have covered this. But Beebe is one of the very few people in the world that actually had a dance named after him. Did you cover that?
No.
You didn't cover that. Well, that's important because it must be a 1 in a million. It was called the Beebe, and I'm not terribly adept at it, but it was basically like this and smiling and just... But here's what you knew when you saw him dancing. And it was always to Neil Diamond. Right? He loved Neil Diamond. Probably a quarter of the people in here don't even know who Neil Diamond is. But he loved Neil Diamond. And you could tell from his face that he was so happy. He danced his own style. He didn't care what anybody else thought. And he was loving life. And you could tell he was a really happy person when he was dancing. He was just so unfettered in the way he handled himself. The other thing I wanted to mention that I think is very odd is he went by Beebe, which I believe came from baby, shortened from baby to Beebe. And you would think any child that had a sibling a year or two older, especially if he had the father's name, would be called Baby, shortened to Beebe, and there should be about 1 billion Beebes in the world. And he's the only one I've ever heard of. So how does that happen? Again, he's very unique. Third thing I wanted to mention was he was in the Navy with my dad, and they flew planes on and off aircraft carriers. And we're so fortunate in the generations below them that we didn't have to sacrifice like that. But they were supposed to be in separate squadrons because of the whole Sullivan thing where they didn't want people in the same squadron where 4 brothers would all be killed in the same mission. And my dad went to the Navy when Beebe was put in a different squadron or requested he put in the same squadron because Beebe was his best friend. And the commander asked, well, you guys get along? You sure you want him to be in your own squadron? He says, he's my best friend. We've never fought. which is probably a little bit of a white lie, but nonetheless, they were super close, and B was a fantastic guy. So anyway, they're in the Navy, flying on and off aircraft carriers, which, the scariest thing I've probably done is skied on a black, right? As most of the generations below that generation, the danger we've been in is nothing like the danger that they experienced. But Beebe would fly on and off aircraft carriers, and one day, coming back on the aircraft carrier, which, if you know how that works, it would have a little hook hanging off the plane that would catch a wire on the aircraft carrier. I mean, this was, 30 or 40 years after planes were invented, probably within 10 to 15 years of aircraft carriers and planes going together, so it was still kind of new and experimental probably. And something went wrong, and he went off the aircraft carrier, into the water, in the plane, and was lucky to survive that. And he's gone now, but this entire family, I mean, it's kind of like the It's a Wonderful Life movie where the younger brother gets pulled out, although I don't think my dad, although I believe he was on the aircraft carrier, he's not the one to pull him out. But Beebe, in many ways, was lucky to have the life he had, as long as he had it. He could have been gone that day, could have not had a family, spent all those wonderful years with Nan. So, it depends on how you look at it. And the other thing I want to say that may not be appropriate, but, what the heck. He's passed. We all pass. I, for one, am not sure what happens when you pass, but I do know this, that if you don't, what would be special about life if we're not mortal? If we're immortal, that would get old after about 1 billion years. And he had a wonderful life, and that's what makes it such an adventure for us, the mystery of it. And he enjoyed life. I remember his laugh, just like my dad's laughed, his other brothers laugh, my granddad's laugh, when they'd play cards and rib each other. He was so gracious and accommodating with his lake house for family reunions, would do 90% of the work before we got there, and then clean it all up and not worry about it after we left. So he's very giving, lived in the same house, 2 houses probably his entire adult life, the same town for all but 3 or 4 years, I'm guessing, other than being in the Navy and being in Texas for a little while. It was old school, honest, always smiling, always pleasant and gentle with everyone. Never heard him say a cross word about anybody. So he was really a special person. And I think that's about all I've got. But we'll miss him. But he had a great life. I'm glad that if you got to go and everybody's got to go, sign me up for going overnight sometime and not having to suffer like so many people have to suffer with cancer and whatever. And I really believe he didn't have any regrets. Sure, he would have loved to live another 10 or 20 or 30 years or 100 years, but it's all relative, and he made the most of what he had. He had a fantastic life, and I'm glad we're able to celebrate his passing, and he was loved by so many. Thank you.
Am I supposed to stand right here?
Oh, wherever you want to see him.
I think I should share with you an experience that I had with my brother For years, we played golf 3 or 4 times a week. And when we played golf, we inevitably would come upon some water that we had to hit the ball over to the green to go. And there was a person in our golf group that will remain anonymous that if you were not on his team would then remind you that be sure and hit the ball over the water because you're going to get a penalty if you hit it in the water, and then you're going to have to hit it again. And this person did this every time we played golf. And my brother, one day, got tired of it. He had all he wanted to do with it. And after he knocked the ball in the water, he went up to this guy and said, if you ever mention water to me again on the Lawrence Country Club golf course, I'm going to wrap this 9-iron around your neck. Now, from that day forward, we never did see any more water. We saw some H2O, some aqua, and even melted ice. But water was gone forever. And we had a lot of fun. That's all I've got, John.
I'm Tim, and Al's son, and first I want to thank you all for coming. We really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. And I want to thank the pastor for a nice sermon. I really liked that, and it gave me some hope for myself. My dad was a great guy. I've got so many stories about him, but I'm just going to give you a little flavor of my recollections. One is that he had more energy than anybody I know. He was always up for a good time, but a couple stories. One, he was 70 years old. I was living in Kansas City. We'd had this ice storm, trees down everywhere. I go to work, and I'm at work, and all of a sudden I get a call. It's my dad. Tim? I go, and I hear this in the background. I go, what are you doing? He said, well, Uncle Charlie and I are at your house. We're cutting down all the trees and chopping them up for you. And I go, Dad, don't do that. What are you, 70 years old, Uncle Charlie, 72, whatever. They're out there sawing the wood in my yard, It was just astounding to me. And then his golf game, excuse me, world's worst golfer, world's worst golf swing. But somehow he made it work. But I'll never forget this one time we're at a member guest. He had me up for a member guest tournament at Lawrence Country Club. And his back he had back problems a lot, and it was out. And I said, Dad, we'll do it next year. No, we're coming up. We're going to have a lot of fun. And so, he could barely walk. I had to give him a treatment in the mornings. And we get out there, and his swing was bad, first of all, but he'd get out there and he'd go, do his bad swing, and like that. And I was in pain just watching him. And I said, Dad, this is silly. Let's stop. No, let's have another beer. Let's keep going. We're going to win this thing, He was up for a good time, always a smile on his face, except for a few times when I was going through high school, I think. But he loved to have a good time. Last thing, he was the world's greatest, with all due respect to everybody here, he was the world's greatest dad. And he had great love for us kids, whether we were bad or good. And he was a source of great wisdom. And, going through high school and growing up, there's a lot of times I thought he had no idea what he was talking about. And looking back, he was always right. He was always right. And to this day, whenever I come to a hard decision in life, I always think, what would my dad do? Because it was always the right decision. So we miss you, Dad.
Anyone else?
My name is Larry Hatfield. Al and I were partners for years, and he was the finest gentleman, the most straightforward guy, honest, just a beloved person. I couldn't have a better character in my life than Al Haverty, and I'll miss him terribly. He was just a wonderful person. You all were so lucky to have him. Thank you.
I'm afraid I'm going to embarrass myself here, but I am J.R. Haverty, Beebe's oldest brother's granddaughter, so the great niece, I guess. But anyways, I guess I went to KU, so I spent a lot of time with both sets of uncles, and a lot of my friends did as well. But one of my greatest memories is pizza night every Sunday. And every Sunday, my first year, I would go, and our dorm, everybody would say, "Oh, where are you going?" So I started inviting people, and it would come back to the dorm. This was like the greatest time of everybody's life. And it got to the point where we had a sign-up list to go hang out with Uncle Beebe. And my friend Kristen's here today, actually. And she used to go, and even her mom would ask if she could come into town to go to pizza night at Uncle Beebe. But we had the greatest time going over there and hanging out and just spending time with them. But also, Uncle Charlie and Uncle Beebe, bless their hearts, would come every time I would move and would help me move in. And I would normally just invite them so they could see where I was living and so I could use Uncle Beebe's truck and that kind of stuff. But before I know it, I'd turn around and here they are carrying my mattresses up and down stairs and carrying things all over the place. But there's one time in particular I had kind of a rough roommate, and both his brothers did not really care for this person. And so Uncle Beebe showed up with this truck, and Uncle Charlie was there, and they worked on switching off on intimidating this roommate and helping me move out. He would show up to every house and make sure it was safe. And I remember one time I told him, "Oh, somebody was trying to break in my back door," and I have just the thing. And he came back and he brought this big metal pole and stuck it in the sliding glass door. "This will take care of everything." And I was like, I don't think I can even open the door with this stupid thing in there. But he showed up for everything, was always there, and I just had the greatest time getting to know him. But my greatest memory with him was at my wedding. I had him and the Beebe with me, and it was just so fun. And sorry. And I'm gonna miss him a lot. The greatest part about having these two great uncles was that when my grandpa, was older and couldn't come, they were there for me. And I'm just gonna miss him a lot. Sorry.
Good. Anyone else? Stories? Comments? Okay. Sure. Let me bring this back.
And we just always had a good time, and there was always fun things to do there, and Uncle Beebe and Aunt Nancy and Uncle Charles and Aunt Barbara, it always made you feel so comfortable. But what I was really thinking about is Beebe was kind of a quiet guy, maybe not to everybody, but he would just kind of take it all in, but he was such a gentleman, which I think has been mentioned here, and always, I think, noticing things that people needed, or maybe if somebody was upset or whatever. He seemed to really have that intuition to be able to meet those needs. And I think that's kind of a unique characteristic of people anymore. We're pretty self-centered people, and I think he was always trying to accommodate people and make sure that they had a good time. And I've been thinking too about when I'd probably go, "Hi, Janet," and put you on speakerphone, and always so excited to talk to you, and just a lot of good times. He was not only a great dad, he was a great uncle, and we just loved him and loved to spend time with him. And I really want to sing Sweet Caroline.
It's one of the songs in we don't have any speakers, but
Oh.
we could sing it if you want to sing it.
I like that song.
Everyone knows the words, right?
Yeah, and we could do the beads.
Yeah, that's right.
What?
Do you want to start us off?
Where's Katie?
Katie!
Katie can sing. All the Brown family can sing.
Before we do that, why don't we leave that to the end? Is there anyone else that would like to? And we can break with that. That would be a good break. Is there anyone else? Patrick?
Is this a microphone?
Yes.
Okay. All right, my name is Patrick Haverty. I am Beeb's oldest grandson. Just kind of looking through this slideshow and everything, just thought of some memories that reminded me of my grandpa. First of all, my grandpa was just an incredibly positive person, to the point that sometimes he'd say stuff and I was like, "Do you really think that, or are you just trying to say that?" But he actually really thought it, and was just really just a passionate, just really good person. Second of all, he could just fix anything, or at least I thought he could. That's just one thing. Me and my brothers were all pretty wild, and we broke stuff all the time, and we just figured that if we broke something, we could bring it up to our grandpa and he could fix it. And just to that point, he was also, he was just a great man. He was a very no-nonsense guy. If ever, we were acting bad as children, especially in our teenage years, that threatened us to send us to grandpa, and he'd whip us in shape, and that would make us not misbehave. But I'll just really miss him. But I know, he's in a better place now, and he's a great guy.
Anyone else? I did find the tune. I happen to have it on my phone, so at least we have something to help us along. Anyone else? One last chance? Any comments? Let's go ahead and we'll finish it out with Sweet Caroline. And if you want to dance the Beeb, if you know the Beeb, or follow along, you probably won't be able to hear it too well, but we can all sing it once it gets going here. We'll start it off. Should have brought speakers. It's the intro. Everyone's going to help, right? You all know the words? Again. I can't help to know it. It's growing strong. Ba 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 ba. You come along.
So long.
Caroline. Ba ba ba. Touching you. This is going to be great on YouTube, by the way. This is going to be wonderful. Caroline. Ba ba ba. All right. That's probably good. Before we keep embarrassing ourselves. I'd just like to thank all of you for being here and showing support for Dad. This has been great, and hearing the stories. We really appreciate it, the whole family. So thank you very much. We are having family over to the house after this, so we'll probably be heading there shortly. So if you can make it by, come by. Yeah, we're having ice cream, beer, pop, pizza eventually. Kind of celebrate Dad's life. So if you can make it by, please do. Everyone's welcome. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.